There was method to my madness. Thank you again, Amy and Steve. That was really special. So, as some of you know, a couple weeks ago, or last month sometime, I spent a few days in Arches National Park in Utah. It never ceases to amaze me how the creative juices just get going for me when I'm in natural beauty. It reminds me of this quote by John Muir, who said, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." Would you agree with that? It's so true for me. There's something about being in Mother Nature, whatever that means, that it just causes my heart, it just causes my consciousness to burst wide open. I can't tell you how many meaningful talks that I have written on a hiking trail or sitting gazing at something of natural beauty. So hopefully that trend will continue today, because I had this amazing aha experience while I was at Arches National Park. How many of you, oh God, that light is bright. How many of you have been to Arches National Park? Let me just see. Okay, it's not a super popular one, but you know what? You need to go. It is filled with all of these very cool looking formations and monoliths, in addition to the names of it called the arches, right? So if you can't really tell, these pictures don't do it justice, but this is massive. Those things go so high up in the air you can't even imagine. There's things like this, just like sitting right there. It's amazing. But let me tell you how the arches are formed, because this is interesting. They're formed by millions of years of wind and rain and sand, continually eroding away these giant monoliths until a hole is worn in the surface. And then as the erosion continues, the hole gets bigger and bigger, and then you have an arch. This would be one of those famous arches. I wish I could tell you I took that picture, but I didn't, because it's really hard to get to that. So I borrowed the picture. But this is how an arch is formed. Now, I know you didn't come here to get a geology lesson, okay? But it's important for my story, because I have a story to tell you, of course. It's important for you to understand how absolutely massive these arches are. Like I said, the pictures just do not do it justice. So I went on this trip with my siblings. Yes, it's true, I'm 58 years old, and I still take vacations with my brother and my two sisters. We love it. We love to do this. But we are middle-aged, and we are people of substance. So we're not what you would call hardcore hikers, okay? That's why I'm trying to make the point here. We love being in nature, absolutely, but we prefer those easier hikes, you know, the ones with the paved pathway or very clearly marked paths. We're not, you know, go just around the riverbed type thing. So one of the most well-known areas in the park is an area that is called the North and South Windows, and it has a bunch of arches and a bunch of formations. So from the parking lot, the arch that is visible, this is the North Arch, and as you can see, there's a very clearly defined path going up to, but it's kind of steep, right? And so, and you know, I'm not as good as sugar as I thought, and so, you know, it's kind of steep, and it's really high altitude, and so I had to stop and rest along the way a couple of times, right? So it took me a while to climb all those stairs to get up to the top of the arch. So I want to ask a question of you. Has there ever been a time in your life when you set your sights on a goal or a project or something that you wanted to experience, and from where you stood at the time, it might have seemed like that goal or that experience was a really long way off? Anybody? Maybe a health goal? Maybe changing a lifestyle habit? How about a goal of continuing your education? A goal of creating the work that you love? A goal of bringing more order into your life? In the beginning, it may have seemed really overwhelming at the prospect of even starting on that goal, let alone achieving it. And yet there was something that was calling to you, something that was tapping on the walls of your heart. I love that phrase from Ernest Holmes, that thing that was tapping at the walls of your heart. Something within you that is urging you forward. So you took your first tentative steps toward that goal, toward that dream. And at first it was really hard. But as you continued moving forward, you felt as if you were drawn by something greater than yourself. Oftentimes what happens is that it is the very first step, getting on to the path, that's the hardest. Do you agree? Getting on to the path. We may dream about things, we may plan, we may think about, we may make our goals, we may visualize, but eventually we have to get on the path. And sometimes when we're on the path, we're going along, and then sometimes it is necessary to stop and rest. Just like I did on my way to the North Window Arch. And I gotta tell you, at first I was kind of embarrassed because I'm huffing and puffing, right? And I'm like, well, Pat, you do Zumba, you brag about doing Zumba. You go to curves, and you should be able to climb this path with no problem, right? But the truth is, sometimes we just need to stop and rest. Sometimes our resolve is not quite as strong as it was when we started. I was going up those steps, and pretty soon I had to stop and regroup. But stopping to rest doesn't mean stopping. Doesn't mean going back to where we started. It doesn't mean giving up. It simply means stopping to rest. No judgment, no embarrassment. Thich Nhat Hanh. We humans have long lost the wisdom of genuinely resting and relaxing. We worry too much. We don't allow our bodies to heal, and we don't allow our minds and hearts to heal. It's true in life. And it's also true on a hike in Arches National Park. Because even though I was resting about halfway up, I had my eye on my goal. I had my eye at the top of that path where the North Window Arch was. So after I had rested a little bit, I started up the steps again. And when I finally got to the North Window, it took my breath away. Now I want you to see, you see the little tiny people there? And you see the giant arch there? yeah. It is absolutely enormous. And as I sat right about where that guy in the middle, that's my brother, by the way, that guy right there in the middle, I'm looking out at this other view, this expansive view, this amazing beauty and amazing variety. And what I kept thinking to myself is, all of this is made of the same stuff. It's made of the same substance. It has the same elements, and they're all formulated in the same way. I could have sat there and gazed for hours. I could have also called it a day after hiking up what I thought was a really hard path and sitting and enjoying the beauty around me. After all, I'd accomplished my goal. I was there at the top of the arch. I was there looking at the window's arch. I had the privilege of seeing this stuff that some people never have the opportunity to see. It's mind-boggling. I've been inspired by the beauty. I've even gotten some exercise. So in many ways, the experience was complete. So I want you to think back again to a time when you had completed a goal, or you had accomplished a dream, or you had experienced one of your desires. Do you remember thinking to yourself, this was complete? It's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. You deserve to feel accomplished and proud of what you did. You deserve to celebrate that. Yay! And if you're like me, after a while, something else begins to tap on the walls of your heart. Something else begins to whisper, there's more. You did good. And there's more. There's more. That's what happened for me when I was at Arches. I'd hiked up to see the north window. It was cool. But the actual attraction is called the north and south windows. But the south window was nowhere to be seen. I knew it existed because I'd read about it. But where was it? Well, I left my perch, where I was actually, back here. Left my perch there. And I started back down the original path. And lo and behold, I don't know if you can see this, there was a signpost. See that in the bottom right? Lo and behold, there was a signpost that said, the south window going in this direction, but I hadn't seen it because I was so focused on getting to the north window. Is this making sense to anybody else? Let me get back to where I was. Okay. So I continued along, and I rounded the bend along the path, and right there in front of me was the equally massive and gorgeous south window arch. And here's the kicker. This is why I wanted to give this talk. It spoke directly to me. I don't know if it's speaking to you, but it spoke directly to me. It was, I could not see the south arch from where I was sitting by the north arch. It was on the other side of a giant boulder. So in order for me to find it, I had to leave where I had already climbed to, my new comfort zone. I had to keep moving and follow the signposts. Now, I would have been perfectly happy to have stayed where I was and enjoyed that accomplishment. It was beautiful, it was fulfilling, I was happy. But that isn't how life works, is it? Life with a capital L. Because we live in a universe of ever-expanding creation, ever-expanding expression. There's always something more to be known, to be expressed, to be explored. Now that's not to say that we always participate in that growth willingly. We've all had that experience of expansion and growth being foisted upon us without our expressed permission. Am I right? It's kind of those WTF moments. Don't be so shocked. I mean, what's the fear? Where's the faith? Naughty people. But when we recognize that we are here to express, we are here to give flesh to that movement of spirit, that life force energy that wants to know more of itself, wants to experience more of itself, wants to live more of itself. When we know that, then we can make the choice to grow and expand and not have it forced upon us. I love this quote by Ernest Holmes. Somewhere along the line, we are going to have to find a faith greater than all our doubts and fears and uncertainties. Somewhere along the line, we must find the love greater than all animosity, the peace beyond our confusion. This is the pathway we have all been secretly seeking, whether we know it or not. We are being guided by a loving intelligence which evermore seeks to bring us comfort and goodwill, happiness and success, health and abundance. So I want you to think back again to a time when you had reached what you thought was your biggest goal, your final goal, and you were happy and you were satisfied with your life. Can you go there? You know what I'm talking about? And yet, you felt that tapping on the walls of your heart. There was something that was telling you there was more for you. And you believed that inner voice because it's always been steadfast in your life. So even though you couldn't actually see what the new thing was with your five senses, you trusted that inner self. That's when you again step out on faith and you get on the path again. But here's what's interesting. Sometimes it seems easier to get to the new idea or the goal because having done the first one, you've built your spiritual muscles. You've built your mental muscles so that now that you step back onto the path, you are stronger, you know more, you are more conscious, you are more trusting. You've already built those muscles. So the hardest part that time is again to step on the path again. Is this making sense to anybody? Now, I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes, what does make it a little bit more difficult is when you can't see whatever the thing is. The north window arch was right there. The south window arch was someplace I had never seen before, right? Okay? So I could see where I was going. I could see it with my eyes. I made my way there, but I'd only heard about the south arch. I hadn't seen it yet. So I had to just trust. Oh my gosh, that's sometimes the challenge, isn't it? I had to trust that it was there. Because there were signposts that told me it was. And so it is with our lives. Just because we can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. It just means we're not quite in the position to see it yet. It might be just around the next bend. It might be on the other side of a giant boulder. But you won't know until you get on the path again. So what's the actual lesson here? We love nature pictures. I love to show nature pictures, tell my stories, right? Well, for one thing, nature, Mother Nature, or human nature, call it what you will, teaches us great things about ourselves, doesn't it? Remember? Also because having stories like this, the great teacher, Jesus, not that I'm comparing myself to Jesus, but the great master teacher, Jesus taught in stories. He taught in parables, right? Because we can see them then. And this gives us ways of learning how to approach our lives and our goals and our dreams. So the first one is simply start on the path towards your goal, whatever that is. Stop talking about it. Stop worrying about it. Just start. Because that first step is the hardest one. And then literally take it one step at a time. You know, it's not a race. I was not in a race with anybody to get to that arch. Don't judge yourself. Don't be embarrassed. Just do it. Oh, that's to take one step. Okay. Then, if you need to take a break, do so. Rest. Rest is necessary to the experience. Isn't that nice to know? Rest is necessary. It's important. You're going to go like this. When you do reach your goal, enjoy it. Celebrate it. Experience that sense of accomplishment because you did good. And then, when the urge to grow happens again, and it will, pay attention to it. Even if you can't see what it is or where it is that you're going, trust that the inner voice within you does. And then get back on the path and follow the signposts because they're there. And understand that it might be easier this time because you've already done the big climbing. Now it's just a matter of moving forward. And then do that. Keep moving. Because whatever it is, might be just around the bend. And here's a picture of both the arches together. Yeah. See that giant boulder in the middle? Okay, so I was on one side. I couldn't see the other side until I took the path and went. Thank you for being here. I love you, and so yes.